I'm a professional investor, and I use the brokerage DEGIRO to invest part of my family's money. In this video, I will show you why I like DEGIRO, what disadvantages I see, plus I'll do a live demonstration of how to buy an ETF on this platform. So let's go to DEGIRO.com. Your first choice is which version of DEGIRO to use, because there are 15 different country portals. The choice of platform not only affects the language, it actually affects the selection of ETFs you will have available. Now, if you are from a major big economy like Germany or France or the UK or Spain, you can certainly choose your own portal. But if you are from a smaller country, like for example the Czech Republic or Greece, then you might want to be careful. For example, many Greek investors complain that DEGIRO offers very few ETFs. This is because of a strict way that DEGIRO interprets EU regulations. If there's no documentation for the ETF in the local language, in Greek, then they will not offer it to you. So what do you do if you are from a smaller country? Well, as it turns out, you don't have to use your country's portal. You can just do what I do and choose the Irish portal. I use DEGIRO Ireland, even though I'm from Latvia, which isn't on this list at all. So you can click on Ireland and then click on Open an Account and follow the process there. And soon you'll have your DEGIRO account. On the desktop, it looks like this. On your mobile phone, it looks like this. In a second, I'll show you around the platform, we'll buy some ETFs, but first I want to explain why I invest through DEGIRO in the first place. Well, when I choose a brokerage for my family's money, I look at four things. First, the size and reputation. Second, the fees. Third, the product selection. And fourth, the user experience, including customer support. Now, looking at size and reputation, DEGIRO is one of the biggest players in Europe. It's part of the Flatex DEGIRO Group, which is a company with a banking license in Germany. It's a publicly traded company with a market cap of 3 billion euros and over 3 million customers all over Europe. Overall, DEGIRO has a really good reputation. A few years ago, they did have a few issues with getting some fines from their financial regulator, but this happens to most big brokerages from time to time, and it seems that they've grown beyond that. So overall, I'm quite happy to hold my money with DEGIRO. Next up, we've got fees. Now, DEGIRO is almost certainly much cheaper than investing through your local bank or brokerage. That said, it's currently not the cheapest online broker out there. You've got competitors like Trading 212 and Lightyear that let you invest in ETFs completely free. Trade Republic charges just €1 per trade. So if you want to invest really small amounts every month, like 20 to 50 euros, I would look at those brokerages. But if you're investing larger amounts, I think DEGIRO's pricing is pretty attractive. Normally, ETF trades on DEGIRO cost €3, unless you buy an ETF from the so-called core selection, in which case it's €1 per trade as long as you follow a few simple rules. Now, fortunately, the core selection is pretty decent. I'll show it to you in just a moment. There is another drawback, which is that DEGIRO charges a connectivity fee for every stock exchange on which you trade or hold a position. If your account size is over €1,000, this connectivity fee is €2.50 per stock exchange per year. It's not that much, but it's a bit annoying. So on fees, overall, I'd say DEGIRO is pretty good, but it's not the market leader. You can find cheaper alternatives. Next up, we've got product selection. Now, if you go to the DEGIRO website and look here under investing, you actually see that they've got all kinds of investments available, like ETFs and stocks and bonds and futures and options and structured products and crypto trackers and commodities. If you're based in a major European country like Germany or the Netherlands or Spain, you will have plenty to choose from. The only concern is really if you pick a country version, like the Greek version, where your ETF selection is small. Now, there are a couple of drawbacks when it comes to DEGIRO's product selection. First of all, you can't buy fractional shares. Okay, so that means investing small amounts of money can be a little bit harder. If an ETF costs €200, you have to invest €200. You can't buy part of the ETF. Second, DEGIRO doesn't really help with your taxes in any European country, as far as I know. Many other brokerages have some helpful tax features, so this is a drawback. And finally, DEGIRO can do securities lending on your account without your permission. So this means they are allowed to lend out your stocks or ETFs. I'm not too worried about it because when they do lend out your securities, they have to provide collateral of equal or greater value. So the risk is not that big, but this is something that many investors don't like. Now we come to the final point, which is customer service and user experience. Let me briefly address customer service. because it's kind of a painful issue with online brokerages. When you've got any fast-growing brokerage that's got millions of users, getting good customer service can be a challenge, and DEGIRO is no exception here. DEGIRO offers both phone and email support, but you can find many stories online about people who got frustrated with long wait times and low-quality answers. I personally haven't had any problems like this, but this is actually why I only invest a fraction of my wealth with DEGIRO. I like to split my portfolio among several brokers so that if something happens with one account, I've got access to the other accounts while I fix the situation. So if you've got a larger amount of money to invest, you might consider using several brokerages. That said, if you're a beginner starting out with a small amount, I think DEGIRO is completely fine. Now, what's the user experience like? I'm going to use the web version of DEGIRO to demonstrate on my laptop because as an ETF investor, this is the workflow that works best for me, but you can also use the mobile version and that works very similarly. Okay, so when I log into my account, I'm faced with a ton of different information like news, winning and losing stocks, stock indexes. Most of that for long-term investors is noise. Right here at the top, I've got the most important information, like my account balance, the current value of my portfolio, how much I've got in cash, how much I've got available to trade, and what's my total profit and loss at this moment. Okay? As a new investor, you'll have to put some money into your account, so you would go here to deposit and withdraw, click on deposit. You can click here to see instructions for making a bank transfer. Every client gets their own bank account with Flatex DEGIRO. And because this is a bank, your uninvested money up to 100,000 euros is protected by the German deposit guarantee scheme. So that's pretty good. So going back to this main portfolio view, you've got a lot of different data about what's happening in the markets. There's a whole section on news. So if you don't want to get your news from the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal, you can go to your DEGIRO account. And there's also this agenda section. Now, this will mostly be useful for active traders. If you want the latest economic data around the world, this is a calendar of when it gets released. I never use that. The only thing I use here is the holidays section, which tells me when certain stock exchanges will be closed, so that can be useful. One annoying thing about the DEGIRO user experience is that the website constantly thinks that I am a robot. It's asking me to prove that I am human like 5 times per hour. In fact, I got logged out just now while recording this demonstration. Moving on, we've got this portfolio section where you can see what investments you currently hold. And then there's this section inbox, which is kind of confusing because yes, it has some messages, but this is also where you can find any open orders that you've currently put in, your past transactions, your account statement, various documents. So all of that is under inbox. But I'm guessing what you might be really interested in is how do you invest through DEGIRO? So for that, we go to the section called products. Here we can find shares, so that's individual stocks. We can find ETFs, we can find bonds, investment funds, structured products, options, and futures. Now, I've talked a lot about how buying individual shares is very difficult. It's very risky. I'm all about ETF investing. So you put some money into an ETF that splits your investment among hundreds of different companies around the world. And usually that's the smartest way to invest if you don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Okay, so let me show you how to buy an ETF on DEGIRO. I'm going to go here to trackers, ETFs, and see what's available. Now, in my professional opinion, this ETF tracker is not very good. It's not very handy for finding good ETFs because the filters they have here at the top, they are missing many important things like accumulating versus distributing ETFs or physical versus synthetic ETFs, all these other aspects. So if I want to find ETFs, I would usually go to justetf.com, which has a much better search system. But what we can do here in the DEGIRO search system is look for these core selection ETFs, where I only need to pay €1 per trade as long as I follow some basic rules. So let's see what we can find here. This is actually a pretty good selection. So let me find something that I want to buy. Under asset allocation, I will pick shares because I want to invest in the stock market. Under region, I want to invest globally, so let me select worldwide. And under product type, okay, so that's ETF. Stock markets allow me to pick specific exchanges, but that doesn't matter to me that much. An issuer, well, I can pick different ETF issuers, but that is also not so important. And under total expense ratio, let's pick the lowest cost category. Okay, and that actually leaves us with just a few selections. I see 4 different funds for investing in the MSCI World Index, so that's developed world stocks. Then I have a couple funds that invest in the MSCI World SRI, Socially Responsible Investing Index. So if I'm interested in adding a moral dimension to my investments, then I have this Vanguard ESG Global All Cap ETF. So this means also socially responsible investing across the world and across all company sizes. And then finally, I've got some Vanguard FTSE All World ETFs in different flavors, different variations. Okay, I've got some accumulating funds and some distributing funds. My personal philosophy is to invest with maximum diversification. I actually invest in all world funds all the time. So the Vanguard FTSE All World option sounds good to me. In my country, accumulating ETFs are better, so I would go for one of these. Now, what's the difference between these? As you can see, the ISIN is the same. So these two are actually the same ETF, but I can buy them on different exchanges. I can buy it either on the Tradegate exchange or on the Xetra exchange, which is the biggest exchange for ETFs in Europe. Now, Tradegate is the smaller specialist exchange. The main advantage with using Tradegate on DEGIRO is that you can make trades after hours, after the main stock exchanges are closed. But I don't need that, so I'm going to go with Xetra. I'm going to click on this one. Now I get a chart of how the ETF price has evolved over time. I can look at the documents for this ETF, like the key information document. And by the way, if you don't know about the KID, the key information document, this is really important. Before you buy any ETF or investment product here in Europe, always read the key information document. But let's say I've done that and I just want to buy this fund. Well, then I would click on buy and put in my order. Now, there's different kinds of orders you can use when buying an ETF. Normally, I would recommend using what are called limit orders. So this lets you get the best possible price because you say, I want to buy this ETF at price X or better. But for really big popular ETFs like this, traded on a major stock exchange like Xetra, a market order is usually fine as well. So this means I'm just going to buy at the latest available price. So in this case, let me say I want to buy 3 shares of this ETF at the latest available price. And I hit place order. I look everything over, so I'm buying 3 shares of this with a market order. It's enforced today on Xetra. That's the current approximate pricing, and estimated fees are €1. So that's because this is part of this ETF core selection. And I hit confirm and order placed, and immediately I see that the order was also executed. So I just bought 3 shares at $135.88. Now, my final verdict is that DEGIRO is one of those brokers that's quite good in every area without being the best. You can find cheaper brokers. You can find bigger brokers. You can find brokers with a wider product selection. But in every area, DEGIRO is quite strong, and you can be very successful investing through DEGIRO. Now, if you have very small amounts of money, like €20 or €50 per month, I would look for a zero commission brokerage like Trading 212 or Lightyear. If you're a big sophisticated investor with millions, or if you're an active trader, then I would look at Interactive Brokers or Saxo. But for most long-term investors who just want to buy some stocks and ETFs and hold them, I think DEGIRO is a fine choice. But even after you choose a brokerage, there's still a big challenge. Remember how on justetf.com we saw there are around 3,000 different ETFs to choose from? You've got stock ETFs, bond ETFs, precious metals ETFs. You have different ETF types like accumulating and distributing, or fully replicated and swap-based. ETFs based in Ireland or Luxembourg or the Netherlands or Germany. So which is best in your case? Well, to find that out, watch this video next.